Michael and his girlfriend Sarah were invited along with their friends Paul and Susan to a new restaurant that just opened. They won a competition on the radio and were very excited to be able to walk into a restaurant and order anything on the menu and not worry about the price. They were all students and didn't have much money to spare with all the expense of college. When they all arrived at the restaurant, they were admiring the outside of it. They heard a lot about it and knew it was very expensive, which was another reason them winning a free meal was a great win. When they sat down in the restaurant and looked at the menu, they appreciated more not having to pay as the meals were so expensive. They ordered their food and ate their meals and were really impressed. When it came to desserts, Michael was the only one to order Death by Chocolate. The rest ordered just plain ice cream. They relaxed after the meal drinking coffee. When they were finished and decided to go home, they had ordered a taxi, and while they were waiting, Michael saw a truck coming straight for him and screamed. He was blown off the footpath and thrown across the street as a chocolate ice cream truck ran him over.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster.
Michael knew he could open his eyes now because they would still be across the street, thinking he was ran over and killed. Little did they know this accident had been planned for months by a friend of his who was a stunt driver. The reason he faked his own death was because he owed a lot of money to the wrong people, and he had planned on telling his friends he was alive when it was safe to do so. They worried if his body wasn't picked up yet by a fake ambulance. That was a part of the plan. Then a real ambulance will arrive. But Michael didn't have to worry, because a sign pole that was hit outside the shop by the truck, saying fresh ice cream on sale here, fell and hit him on the head, and he was killed instantly.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt.
Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. It was Sam's birthday, and he decided to celebrate it with just his sister and parents this year because of how much drama there was at his birthday last year. Sam was having an argument with his parents because they wouldn't allow him on the Ferris wheel, so he got very angry and ran off with temper. He ran outside of the fun fair and was walking along the road sulking. He suddenly noticed a car driving slowly beside him, and the window was pulled down. A weird-looking man dressed in a black suit stared right at him with a weird look and said, "You're next." Sam got chills up his spine and turned and ran back into the fun fair. He saw his sister with his parents. They were talking to a cop, and Sam's dad saw him and told the cop, and they walked over to Sam. A couple of minutes later, they were all sitting eating popcorn when Sam's dad said, "Well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt you riding the Ferris wheel." Sam's mom looked at her husband and said, "What?" Sam couldn't understand why his parents were so against him riding the Ferris wheel, but he was happy he was going to ride it, so he just jumped up and gave his parents a high five and shouted, "Awesome!" Sam walked over to the Ferris wheel and waited in the queue. When he got to the top of the queue, the man selling the tickets looked down at him and said, "You're next." It was the exact same man in the car. Sam ran away from the wheel and up to his parents and shouted, "It's him! It's him!" Sam's parents both said, "Who?" Suddenly, Sam's dad made eye contact with the man taking the tickets. The man turned and ran, but Sam's dad took chase after him. Finally, he caught him and said, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The man said, "You know what happened with this wheel this exact night last year." Recognition came to him right away. It was the father of a kid who shared the same birthday with Sam, and they were at the fun fair last year. The man could see it was all coming back to Sam's dad and walked up close to him. In the background, the Ferris wheel was on fire. The people on it were screaming and shouting as they stopped it. The man purposely set fire to the wheel, and it was meant for his son. The man screamed at Sam's dad, "This very night last year, you and your silly wife offered to take my son to the fun fair to share his birthday with your son. What did you do? You left him go on this messed up Ferris wheel and he fell out from halfway up. Lucky he has survived, but do you know he has nightmares every single night?" The man got out a gun and pointed it at Sam's dad, but there were several policemen nearby shouted, "Drop the weapon." The man was arrested, and Sam, his sister and parents went home and decided next year to celebrate his birthday at home. Rachel was enjoying her summer holidays, but had to save up for her college fees for going back to college. Last summer Rachel worked in a bar and enjoyed it, but since this summer had a lockdown and most of the bars and all the clubs were shut, she had no choice of securing bar work this summer. It was when she was in her friend's house one night that her friend Susie recommended the platform OnlyFans. Rachel first thought it was a disgusting, sleazy site, but had to admit the way Susie was telling her about it seemed appetizing, and the best selling point was she could make a ton of money from the comfort of her own home. Within a week, Rachel set up lights in her bedroom. She already had them anyway, as she used to blog a lot on social media, but never ever thought she would be doing such dirty photos, etc. She posted a few sexy photos, but nothing too explicit. Within a week, she was delighted to see that her followers were going up, and the first month she had made over 1,000 euros. After a while, she started posting exclusive content for her followers who would pay more, and she even got tips for no extra content. One night she received a very creepy message from a guy that paid her to pretend to slit her throat with a knife. She had an open mind at this stage, but still found it very creepy, a guy asking her to get a knife and pretend to slit her throat. The man got very pushy, saying he would pay more money if she did it, and he wouldn't take a no for an answer. So she just spoke a little bit more and then blocked him. That night, Rachel was walking her usual walk she used to do around the block in the evening when she heard a noise. She thought it might have just been a dog or a cat, but looked anyway. There was nothing there. She kept walking until she heard it again. This time she froze, wondering, could someone be actually following her? Suddenly a man appeared and she jumped. Then she screamed when she saw a man pull out a knife and put it to her throat. He said, "You stupid little bitch." Rachel was thankful she took karate classes when she defended herself and was able to knock the knife from the man's hand. Then she knocked the man to the ground and grabbed the knife and held it to his throat. He was smiling, and that made her blood boil. She picked his skin, and there was blood. Then there was more blood as she stuck it in more. He told her, "Okay, that's enough, babe. I loved that roleplay. I am absolutely so turned on." Rachel then said, "I am turned on more, knowing that I am going to add a little extra to your roleplay. I am going to actually cut your freaking throat for real." With that, Rachel sliced the man's throat open. The next day, she was looking through her phone to see what messages or tips she got on her OnlyFans, but she was surprised when she saw a DM from the man that she blocked. She wondered, 1, how could she get a message from someone she blocked? And 2, how can she receive a message from someone she know she left absolutely dead? She opened the message, and there was a link to a video. She clicked on it and saw a video of her slicing the man's throat. It was the CCTV footage, but she made sure there was no camera. No, it couldn't have been CCTV footage. It must have been someone filming her. But who? She froze to death when she saw what happened. When she walked away, the man had vanished into thin air. Suddenly she turned around when she felt like someone blowing into her neck. The man was staring right into her eyes and said, "You shouldn't have took it that far. All those creeps on that horrible app are just a bunch of losers. I am your only fan, worth anything, and you just let me die." Rachel was trying to figure out what was happening. Suddenly, she woke up from a nightmare. It all came flooding back to her now, her killing the man. She wondered how she turned into a cold-blooded killer just over a few strange roleplay requests. Suddenly her phone rang. Susie said, "Rachel, you wouldn't believe what this crazy guy paid me €100,000 for last night. He was completely nuts. He claimed to have some power to turn any idea into a reality. Would you believe that? He said to me make up some horror story about OnlyFans about my best friend. I told him some wild crazy story that a guy messaged you to play a roleplay game, to him go to stab you and then you really stab him and then you would have a nightmare after it, that the guy actually came back to life. Can you imagine? He actually paid me €100,000 for that, for some crazy stupid little story. I am extremely proud of myself for the ending. It really seemed to get him off." Rachel couldn't comprehend what she was hearing and asked Susie, how did her story end? Susie said, "He came back to life really, and first slit your throat, then teleported himself, or whatever, to slit mine." With that, the girls' phones were lying on the ground in a pool of blood, with them lying dead.